The US and its allies have failed to push an anti-Assad resolution through the UN Security Council for the third time. Russia and China have once again vetoed the motion. Let's get more from New York now and join RT's Marina Portnaya. Marina, good to see you. So as far as I understand it, there were 11 in favour. South Africa and Pakistan abstain, but they're Russia and China essentially stopping the latest draft resolution dead in its tracks. Why?
That's right, and it shouldn't come as a surprise because Russia has been saying all along that it will not support any draft resolution on Syria that is tied to Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, and that is a position that China has also echoed in the past weeks. Now, this UK drafted resolution that was supported by France, Germany, Portugal, and the United States extended the UN supervision mission in Syria for 45 days, but it was also tied to Chapter 7, as I mentioned. And what that means is it paved the way for sanctions to be imposed on Damascus if the Syrian government did not seize the use of heavy weapons and withdraw from heavy populated areas within 10 days. So that means that if the Syrian government did not live up to what the Western European countries wanted, economic sanctions could be imposed on Syria, and somewhere down the line under Chapter 7, military intervention could have even been used to end the crisis in Syria. Although Western countries promised that they would only be using the measures of sanctions, we saw that last year when the Security Council acted in Libya and a no-fly zone was imposed, Russia, China, and many other countries believe that European countries and the U.S. exceeded its mandate of the no-fly zone, escalating a military intervention in Libya, and that was a precedent that was set, and that is what Russia said why they will not allow sanctions or any further measures to be imposed on Syria, particularly because this UK draft resolution was only outlining consequences for the Syrian government and was not outlining or putting any pressure on the armed opposition in Syria.
Yeah, certainly, Marina, there's certainly been concerns worldwide when it comes to the UN and drafting a resolution against Syria. Could there be some elements that were seen back with UN Resolution 1973 that basically opened the way for military intervention in Libya? So here we have Russia and China vetoing this latest UN draft resolution. Russia continues to veto resolutions. That's all well and good, but the question to many is, what are Moscow's own proposals then for solving the Syrian conflict?
Well, Moscow does have a proposal and an alternative because Russia has also drafted and tabled a resolution on Syria, which may be voted on. We have to wait and see. Now, this resolution calls for the extension of the UN supervision mission in Syria for another 3 months. Let's remind our viewers that this mission, it expires in 24 hours, and maybe a little bit more than that. And if the mandate is not extended, that means the UN will no longer have any personnel in Syria to at least observe what is happening. Right now, they have 300 unarmed observers. While activities were suspended in mid-June, it is still much better for the international community to have members inside of Syria to do what they can, to at least observe what's happening, to give verification of what's happening. If the United Nations and the international community loses that group inside of Syria, the crisis could spiral even further out of control with no involvement of the UN, and the Security Council would not have any reporting from its own members. So we have to wait and see if this mandate will be extended. That is what Russia is hoping for with its draft resolution. But Western countries say that unless there are consequences against the Syrian government put into a resolution, such as their Chapter 7 one, they would not support Russia's draft, which at this point just calls for an extension of the UN mission in Syria.
All right, RT's correspondent Marina Portnaya there live for the latest from New York. Thank you. All right, let's stay with the Syrian crisis here on RT. Quote, some of the bloodiest hours of the conflict. That's how both the government and rebels dubbed the period following yesterday's deadly bombing in Damascus. The attack wiped 3 senior members of Assad's government, including that of the defense minister. It coincided with intensifying armed clashes in the capital and across the country, which killed over 150 people, this according to reports. For now, the whereabouts of President Assad, who hasn't made any public appearances since the explosion, remains unknown, some suggesting he's fled the capital. RT's Maria Fanoshina now reports from Damascus.
The news about blast has come at a very tough time for the Syrian capital. In the last 4 days, Damascus has been seen for what the opposition and Free Syrian Army have dubbed the final battle for Damascus, a decisive battle for the Syrian capital. Shootings have been heard in very different parts of the Syrian capital. We've also seen black smoke drifting over the city's skyline, and we've also been hearing helicopters not only flying over one of the oldest continuously inhabited capitals in the world, but also firing. We can see some smoke even now in actually many different neighborhoods of Damascus. Many countries have closed their embassies here in Syria and have withdrawn all personnel. In this neighborhood alone, Turkish embassy over there, Saudi embassy, this is the building of American embassy, Italian embassies. These embassies have all suspended their work. Overseas companies have also evacuated their staff. Foreigners no longer feel safe here in the Syrian capital and they have fled. But ordinary Syrians don't have the same choice. The war has come to their door and they have nowhere to run. And they're trying to organize their everyday life, waiting for this nightmare to end. One of the most important rules these days in the Syrian capital is not to go to the city's troubled areas, where the clashes between the rebels and the army still continue. And the names of these neighborhoods are very well known for everybody here. Marhaba. Midan? La? Lesh?
No, I won't take you to Maidan. It's too dangerous.
But Damascus is a very big city with a population of around 2 million people, or maybe these days even more, with all displaced families from Homs and Idlib and other epicenters of the uprising from all across the country sheltering now here in the capital. And in some neighborhoods you can see pictures that you don't at all expect to see in the capital of a country engulfed with war. Or like this, family lone picnics, really very peaceful pictures. Syrian conflict has been raging for 17 months already. People say they're tired, they are exhausted, but they also say that life must go on. Marie Finosh from Damascus in Syria.
And Maria is one of the very few remaining international correspondents that continues to report on the events from the heart of the conflict. You can follow her on Twitter to stay up to date on all the developments in the Syrian capital. Live coverage throughout the day via her feed. Find her at mfinoshina_RT.